Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We appreciate you joining us for today's important conversation on optimizing the in-aisle customer experience through smarter technology. We're exploring one of the most important and rapidly evolving technologies shaping the future of independent retail, and that's AI. Now, today's session is about something every independent retailer understands deeply. That moment when a customer asks a question and everything depends on the answer. Ultimately, the confidence, the clarity, the speed, and the trust that your employees are able to bring to that experience. And because independent retail, that moment isn't just a transaction, it's the relationship that you all rely on every single day. And as technology evolves, so does our ability to strengthen that relationship. Now, for those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet on the call today, my name is Cody Gepner, and I serve as the Director of Education and Training for the North American Hardware and Paint Association. I grew up in my family's independent hardware store, and I've spent my career working alongside independent retailers across North America. What I've seen consistently is this. Independent retailers don't win because we have more resources. We win because we create better experiences. And today, we're going to explore how emerging AI technology, specifically FastQuery AI, can help strengthen that advantage. Now, if you've been following along with the latest research from NHPA, you've probably heard us advising the industry as a whole on the evolution of the independence value proposition and how it's shifting in real time. The reality is, the value my grandparents and the generations before us built their business model on, including convenience, service, and product knowledge, has shifted right before our eyes to a completely new model that we've identified as curation, relationship cultivation, and customer confirmation. And that final piece is extremely important for today's conversation. Product knowledge is transitioning to customer confirmation. And what that means is that customers have done their research online before they even come into your store. But your job as retailers today is to affirm their choice while they're in your store and show that their value as a trusted resource. That's the goal of your employees. And so today we're going to talk about a solution tied directly to this value proposition. Now, you might be asking, how is this new model showing up in real time? And we see it showing through several different operational challenges. According to the data received through NHPA's cost of doing business study, customer count is down across the industry for the fourth year in a row, meaning retailers need to drive traffic and convert sales better than they've been able to ever before. And here's the reality. According to recent industry surveys, consumers will give companies 2.2 chances on average before switching to a competitor, while more than 50% of those consumers will just switch to a competitor after one bad experience. And at the same time, as if that's not scary enough, wage increases continue to create challenges, meaning your employee productivity is a key focus for best-in-class retailers. And we are also seeing pressures all across the board when it comes to margin maintenance. Whether that's you're seeing that increased pressure through inefficiencies in inventory management, maybe it's your assortment productivity is off, or your price changes are just more important now than ever. And that's why today's webinar about AI technology solutions by FastQuery AI is so important. Now, today's conversation isn't just about this cool technology we got to talk about. It's about curiosity, and it's about trying new things. And it's about understanding how these new tools can empower independent retailers to better serve their customers and strengthen your stores. That's exactly why I'm especially excited to introduce our co-moderator. Many of you know her as the longtime co-host of Discovery Channel's MythBusters, where she helped bring science, experimentation, and problem solving into millions of homes. Kari built her career by asking questions, challenging assumptions, and helping people understand how new ideas move from possibility to reality. And what makes her perspective especially meaningful for today's conversation is that she isn't just someone who explores innovation, she experiences it as a customer. And I was so excited to learn this when I was introduced to Kari that she's truly a champion of independent retailers. She understands the value of that local hardware store that you're running, or the paint store, the neighborhood businesses that serve as trusted advisors in their communities. And her curiosity, creativity, and her ability to help people connect new technology to real world impact makes her the perfect partner to help guide today's discussion. So please join me in welcoming our co moderator for today's conversation, Kari Byron. Thanks for joining us, Kari.
Hi guys. Like you said, my name is Kari Byron. I used to be on MythBusters, but mostly I'm here because I am a hardware store customer. I spent a lot of time, especially in the beginning of the show, just going to small independent hardware stores that were all around the shop because that's where I could get the most help because I never knew exactly what I was doing. And I needed a guy. I needed to find that guy that could help me understand like what fitting to use, what tool that I needed to buy for whatever we were working on. So I'm going to be here as your customer. I'm going to be the one that's going to ask some questions.
Yeah, in the promotional video, Carrie, I think we talked about this, but the most relatable moment is when you just paused and sniffed in and took that smell of a hardware store and like it was a home away from home. That's when I was like, okay, wait, she is more than just Mythbusters. We've got a true customer here with us today.
Oh yeah. My dad was a DIYer and also somewhat thrifty, so there was no way we ever hired a plumber, an electrician, or a carpenter. Like he's gonna do it himself. Like if there needs to be a deck in the backyard, he's building the deck. So like I got taught that that's how you do things. But you know, me personally, I if I wasn't taught how to do that as a kid, that's where I learned it. Like every time I have a project, I go to the walking distance small hardware store down the street for me. And I'm always psyched when I walk in. And like for the last 20 years, Tito's been there. And I'd be like, dude, all right, what do I use for this? And he's like, hold on. And he goes and he finds everything on the shelves for me or where it's at because he's got the store freaking memorized. But whenever I'd walk in and it was like one of the teenagers he hired or like somebody I didn't know, it's like, crap, this is gonna be a long time. Yeah, I knew I was coming back like three, four times. Like I wasn't gonna be able to complete a project because it was gonna be like, oh my God. But God, I didn't get the right bit. And like I'd go back and back. So it's like I'm really hoping there's technology that can replace Tito someday because I know he's gonna retire and I'm still gonna have to go to that hardware store.
Well, and I think you're speaking our language because that is the problem that every single one of us independent retailers have. There's either my grandpa or Tito or that guy that everybody just goes to. And how do you multiply them times a million? And I think we're going to actually talk about this technology that makes sense for that today. But before we introduce the panel, can I just ask you a question about AI technology?
Man, I feel like AI has entered everywhere, like every single industry, and it's an awesome tool. Like you can if you can use it to solve a problem, it's so exciting.
Well, and that's kind of where my question comes from, right? Like you've spent your career testing myths and exploring what's possible. When you first started seeing AI, and now it's more, available than ever, it feels like it's just at our fingertips. I mean, we feel that in retail, and usually we're behind the curve and it's available to us, right? What was your initial reaction with this AI? Were you immediately curious, or was there a little skepticism in there as well?
I mean, I start skeptical about everything. And
Okay.
so like AI in general, if it's a general AI, for instance, if I'm just trying to Google something or use one of the different AI models, it could be fed with a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking for things that have been specifically trained so that can actually address an issue that I have. Like I really want it to be used as an informed tool and not just a blanket tool. So I'm really both skeptical and super excited about what it can do when the right people are putting it together.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be able to relate to that position. And actually, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and introduce our panelists because I think they're going to give us some amazing insights on how they navigated both sides of just what you're talking about.
By the way, that is like the worst picture. I'm going to have to fire the person who put this together, but
We'll take it off for a little bit. Here, get the rest of the panelists. What do you say?
terrible. Yeah. Okay. Well, these are much better pictures. We've got Adam Gunnett, who is of Busy Beavers Building Centers, Eric Hassett, who is of Hassett Hardware, which is an awesome store. And last but not least, we have Joe Bullock, who is going to represent FastQuery in all of this conversation.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning.
Now, as we get started, obviously you heard my pitch to this today, kind of how we see that value proposition shifting. Eric, Adam, I would love to hear from you guys. Did that make sense for what you're seeing in your stores, or prove me wrong at the same time?
For me, it's funny. Lindsay Thompson, NHPA writer or editor, sent me a message about 2 weeks before I met Anton, the founder of FastQuery, asking me specifically, "Hey, how are you leveraging AI and hardware?" And my answer back was, "I'm really not. Like, I'm maybe using it to polish some longer emails, but whether it's technology, which isn't up to our industry technology isn't the latest and greatest." I hadn't really seen a pathway to use it.
Yeah.
And it really took a skeptical approach to kind of push back on what Anton was thinking how we could apply AI in the stores to land at a product today, which now I'm viewing as kind of the central nervous system for how I'm going to operate my stores, not just for what the customers experience and the knowledge I can give to my staff, but also for the back end, helping me stitch together all the key pieces and make better decisions in business going forward.
I mean, for people who don't know, who's Anton? I don't think we established who Anton
I don't
is.
think
sorry,
we did.
sorry.
Oh, it's good.
So here's the introduction to FastQuery. An adorable programmer. My 6 stores are in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm very used to being around tech bros. Adorable programmer comes in with these little buttons and saying, "Hey, I want to put these all over your store," and a customer will press the button and the AI will answer the question, right? Where is this? How much does it cost? And how do I fix a problem? And I said, "Get out." That's not my model.
Yeah.
I said, "You know what? That is exactly what Home Depot was looking for. But my model, my differentiator is service. And so if you can take that little button and turn it into an app and then put it on my phones, and I can give my associates this vastly deep knowledge base, that's something that I would be interested in." And so we had a couple weeks of back and forth. He was in the stores, using my stores as a lab constantly. And at first he tried to get the customers to press the button and nobody wanted to press the button. And then he started following customers around and pushing the button for them. And then he finally relented and went like, "Okay, you're right. How do I get this?" And then 2 days later, he handed me a prototype of what is now FastQuery.
Wow.
A DIYer right there. That is a builder. It's just a different kind of builder looking for a
Exactly.
problem and trying to fix it. He just didn't have a guy, so he had to be the guy.
Yeah.
So what's funny hearing Eric tell that story is Busy Beaver, we're based out of Pittsburgh, PA. So we have CMU in our background. So I want to say back in 2019, we had one of the classes, they wanted to do a project where it was similar, where they would put a kiosk in the store and then it would light up where products were. But what we found during that is the customers didn't know what they wanted. They didn't know the right questions to ask. And this was kind of like the pre-AI days. So I was, glad to hear about FastQuery through Eric on the NHPA. It's crazy, this small community, we're always looking for solutions that we can kind of leverage together to make us all stronger. And I was curious about FastQuery, and then we kind of hit the ground running with it. I think we were customer number 2.
So FastQuery is kind of just turning like anybody into the guy. Like turning anybody into that guy that you have to ask all the questions to. I mean, how has that been working for you? Is it something that's being easily adopted?
I think a lot of our employees, at least my employee balance is pretty spread out. I've got a lot of seniors, retirees, people looking to keep busy in their older ages, and a lot of youth. Not a whole lot of product knowledge. And so historically, I've invested a ton of money into training programs, hours and hours and hours to bring people up to speed in all the different categories. I think hardware retail is one of the hardest there is because there is so many different categories and so much technical depth to a lot of the things we do. So the initial iteration of FastQuery was just to solve for that, right? Not only could it quickly and easily identify what products we had in store to solve any problem. So Kari walks in, Tito's not there, and you need to know what fertilizer to use in the middle of winter on your avocado trees.
Do I just look like an avocado tree kind of person? Is that you're just, I feel like we're making a California assumption right here. So what kind of fertilizer do I use on my avocado tree?
I don't even know. There's like 50 sitting on my shelf. And if I'm a brand new hiree that hasn't spent the hours going through lawn and garden, we give them this tool, and not only does it provide the list of here's the products that are in stock right now, quantities, price, etc., but it also gives you the why. It explains this Job's fruit steak is the best thing to do right now because of XYZ. It's pulling that information from manufacturers' information, from general forums, but it's cultivating some actual advice that we can give to our consumers right away. Without worrying about, oh man, Tito's not here today. Are we going to have a complete void of knowledge in paint, electrical, and hardware? So it really immediately enables every associate to know pretty much everything there is to know about every product in our store and in our distributors' warehouses.
I mean, how does this all align with these like evolving expectations that customers are coming up with in your stores? Like, I mean, today it's really different than like 3 to 5 years ago, what people are looking for. And I think even just the evolution of YouTube and Google has made more people into DIYers. So how is this, is it evolving along with it?
Yeah, so I think every customer that, comes into our stores, they've done their fair bit of research. So whether, they're using AI themselves to get the answer, or whether, they're watching YouTube videos or looking at blogs on websites, I think they're coming in kind of knowing what they're looking for. They just want to, typically when they have these problems or projects, there's some immediacy to it. So that's why they're still choosing to come to us, because we're close and we're convenient, and they just want someone to be able to help them out. So, FastQuery, like we talked about earlier, it's just, giving that confirmation that, we're going to be able to help them out and that we actually do have it in stock. And to a point that Eric was making earlier about, training our associates. So if you think about, we're a home center, so we have, we're doing the lawn and garden, and that's a very, profitable part of our business. We have a seasonal specialist, and they go through, weeks and weeks of training. They meet with vendors. Paint's a very big category for us. And we, again, have a dedicated person that gets a paint certification. And then at most of our stores, we have, a pro sales expert. And again, when you tack on all these trainings and the amount of hours it takes, there's really impossible to have someone that's an expert on all of them. And then the two categories I didn't even mention that can be kind of the hardest are your electrical and your plumbing, which every hardware store has. So to kind of be able to level up an associate for that and to be able to have that available every hour that you're open is a real, game changer. And especially I find the electrical and plumbing, that's where FastQuery does an amazing job.
Adam,
I think it aligns really well because, in Tito, your favorite hardware store, Kari, he's got some knowledge and a lot of experience. And that is a huge factor in making sure our customers feel assured that what they're about to do, somebody else has done or tried in the past. But Tito doesn't have the knowledge of what's on the MSDS sheet that the manufacturer is putting out there for the, chemical interactions, that kind of stuff. So we can take Tito and superpower him. And back to your original question, how it's aligning with the consumers, right? We all, in an instant, Kari could be doing this hosting and ordering those sandbags she needs online on the side because we all know we can go online and find these things. But we're in the disaster business. We're in the just now, I need to solve it now business. So the fact that customers in the store and asking us is the first win. And we've got to be able to capitalize it. Back to that 50% giving you one shot. They walk in, Tito's not there, and they leave. You might never get that customer back. So the ability to enable and give the staff confidence that they can answer any question, no matter how far out of their depth they are, is a huge benefit. And the consumers can see that even when, I've got some senior employees who have the experience, but they're a little hesitant. Like, I think this is what I would do. Boom, they use FastQuery, they pull up the product, and they get the validation right there. And the consumer is engaged in that conversation. They leave feeling like, okay, somebody with experience said use this, the internet said use this, and I got my problem solved.
I mean, are you seeing that educationally with your sales team just in real time? Because I mean, I feel like sometimes when I go into the store or the big box store or wherever, I just feel like employees are a little bit hesitant to help. So, I mean, is this the kind of technology that's really giving employees confidence? Like, are you seeing that?
Yeah, we're absolutely seeing it, and in different forms. I've got some staff that have it out loud and proud. They're showing the customer all the information right on their screen. They're not afraid to have the voice talk back and forth. And then I've got some younger staff who want to come off like, hey, I know everything, and they're texting on the, using their, don't have to look at the screen to type, and asking questions and getting verification on the side. But once you teach them, we always teach them, don't say no, right? Like, say, let me find out, how do you save that sale? Putting it right there in their hand and not making them go run to somebody, that one poor Tito getting every question. It really empowers them. And once they're used to it, like, it becomes I've had some stories shared with me about how they're using FastQuery outside of work, just to help them with their lives. Yeah.
Okay. So you get dating advice on it too?
Okay. I haven't asked for that yet, but I know that people are using the task management tool that we use for the hardware stores to also remind them, like, hey, when I get home, remember to put that in my bag to come back tomorrow.
Adam, how about you? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone wants to go to work to do a bad job. And I think in the past, when you would have people shy away from customers, it was because, they didn't have the knowledge. And now with FastQuery, they feel very comfortable answering the customer's questions. And, I think, again, going back to, this time, well, maybe a month or two later from this time last year, we were kind of experimenting with it. And, there was some hesitancy that, okay, maybe this tool isn't going to be right. But we found that the confidence in it has gone up tremendously, month over month. And at this point, we have trained people to make it the first place to ask, even if, they already know the answer. It's just a good way so then we can actually track trends to see what kind of questions are being asked, and we can kind of better identify, what we might need to carry, or, even look at, staffing levels. Are we asking more questions this time of day compared to this time of day? So, yeah, it gives the people the confidence to do their job, and when they feel more confident, they're more likely to jump in and engage with the customer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm new to this crossover of technology with hardware stores. So this is actually also collecting data for you guys to help you like shelve better. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been testing is basically us at the headquarters level are kind of able to see what kind of questions were asked throughout the week. There's been a series of different types of reports to how often questions are asked, how often scanners are used, how many different features of the app are being used. So we're ever evolving. So, that's just a testament to, Anton and Joe at FastQuery kind of being open to reception and think about how this tool can, help power us.
Yeah. And there's information available beyond the product level, right? So it's helpful to know how many people come in and ask for sandbags today. It's more important when you start looking at the inventory. So for my team, multi-store, they can say, hey, we've got four to solve your problem here, but my other stores have this many and this many. And oh, my warehouse also has this many, and I know I can get that by X date. So it gives so much more information that the employees have access to it today, but it's a long process. You've got to log in and go do your searches instantaneous in your hand. And then, yeah, like Adam was saying, on the corporate level, we can go back and look at like, why are we always checking the warehouse quantity for these three products? Maybe we should bump up our stock.
It's so interesting to me listening to you guys. I'm reminded of that statistic at the beginning where customers, half of them are only giving us one chance to get it right. And if we don't, they're out the door. They're finding our competitors on average, maybe just over two visits. And it just seems like I've just like, we got to pause here for a second because it almost seems too good to be true, right? Like you're saying Fast Query is finding a solution for helping make sure that your employee can sell the entire store. I remember when I was in my grandparents' hardware store, somebody would come in the electric aisle and I'd run away. I'd go hide in the bathroom because I didn't want to do it. And they wanted to deal with my grandpa. It was just this like generational transition that was painful for both sides of that equation. And the customer was getting the raw end of the deal every single time they saw me scurrying away. And so, like, you guys saying that there's finally technology that's available that if we had that generationally in our family business at that time, he could have threw a tool that we could have called Tito, Keith, whoever in my hand. It just is like I just have to pause there for a second because the fact that Fast Query is like this technology partner that's focused on just making that retail outcome that's been a generational problem for so long is amazing to me. And I can't believe that I'm the only one on this call going, okay, wait, tell me more, right? It, is that like Eric, you're telling me that is your experience there?
I mean, one of the nuances of our business that makes it challenging is we're also in the translation business, and whether it's terms that are being thrown around, somebody calls it a battleship, somebody calls it there's so many terms that people have either learned from different parts of the country. I mean, we do half of our job is like charades, right? I need the thing that goes under the like hand motions.
Yeah.
So we take those, I've been in hardware for way too long. I still get questions that stump me. And it turns out once you probe a little bit and leverage the tool, it finds those comparisons. I don't have a great example top of the head, but I know I helped a customer a couple months ago that was looking for effectively shower curtain rings, but she was calling it something else that I'd never heard of before.
The doohickey, the thingy. I do that all the time. I'm like, I don't know what to call this. It does the thingy with the pipe and the thing over here.
And that's, you can leverage the AI to go out there and search for those kind of experimental ideas and bring it back to here's how we solve that problem, right? Being right next to Stanford, I've helped students build models of nuclear reactors, which is not an item we sell on the shelf, right? But you start putting things together with how would I, and it does help guide the employee to helping your customer.
So what are some of the like non-customer facing duties in the store that this helps out with? Like, what are some of the core operation areas that you see opportunities for driving efficiency? Because I imagine like the rest of every industry, wages are just getting higher and higher. So you need to make one person able to do more. So what are some of the opportunities that this is a pressure release for?
You want to go
So,
first, Adam?
yeah, so one of the things, one of the programs we put in place last year was an internal cycle counting program. So again, with any program like that, it all falls on to execution. So, we had a program in place, saw a certain level of adoption, and then we actually worked with another partner that kind of makes those cycle counts a little bit smarter by, some of the algorithms and things that it uses. And we were, excited to get that kicked off. And again, had a very high level of success at, a number of stores. But when we went to scale it, we saw the execution level drop off. So again, that was kind of it was a problem that I kind of brought to the attention of Anton at FastQuery, and he's like, "Well, it's funny you should say that. We're working on a task management system." So we were able to roll that out, and now the individual, they have the task on the handheld, they have a picture of the product, and they're able to action it right on the handheld itself. So that was something that, it probably took us, I want to say 6 months to go from one store to three stores. And then we went from three stores to 19 stores in, 6 weeks because, having that ability to have the task pushed down to the employees, then being able to look at it from a corporate level and see that those actions or the tasks are being actioned on it made it, a lot easier for us to do. So that was a integral integration. And I know Eric does something similar, but it's a different platform. So that's what's great about FastQuery is they're working with different partners.
Yeah. So to add to that, I mean, like I said at the beginning, it's becoming our central nervous system. I have so many dashboards I can go to. We've implemented so many things to maximize our labor efficiency, leverage technology to help the stores run better. And whether that is digital price tags, inventory robots, we use Mango for our inventory accuracy program. That program, before FastQuery, we spent about 100 labor hours per month making sure that we were spot checking our inventory to keep it correct. We've cut that by 60%. And simply by enabling it through FastQuery. Same with the tasks, the ability to have the manager be having dinner at home and think of something, task it. It still shows up for the appropriate associates and gets executed on a very quick basis with all the reporting, but not like I don't have to go to a dashboard to do it. It's just working. So, you walk a customer to the shelf, they're looking for something, we're out. Historically, that was well, that's an out and maybe it gets addressed. Now it's it was out, it gets flagged, and now somebody's going to go make sure that we've got the correct count and we're not going to disappoint another customer with it. So the task management has become huge for my team. It's taken the engagement level with FastQuery up by many multiples. But it's also it's now where we push all of the other pieces that are critical to communicate to our staff. And so whether that is a news article that we want to push out, boom, I know every associate's going to look at it because that's where they have to go every day. We want to celebrate. Kari's coming to film a promo in our store today. The staff will know because we can push it to there. And because FastQuery is so flexible, you can tie it to all of these platforms. So my robots are sending the inventory data to FastQuery. My payroll system is sending announcements to FastQuery. So it's really becoming kind of the glue that's pulling all these independent things together for me and making them actionable.
I could see that Tim and Tyler with Tracula are on the call. So I just wanted to say kudos to you guys for leading some of the inventory analytics space. That's awesome. And maybe Eric, I would love to talk more about how much time are you saving using tech in the hardware store? I mean, I think it's just such a new thing that I think people are kind of apprehensive to bring tech into any of their lives.
Yeah. The Bay Area is a very expensive place to live. And so we have to pay a very high wage. And therefore, to keep my ratios in line, I've got to make sure everybody is as efficient as possible. So I'm finding all sorts of little tiny breadcrumbs everywhere, right? We put in new digital communicators, which also integrate with FastQuery for task management. But that saves the employees the footsteps to get to a phone. That allows us to transfer around the system and be standing right in front of the product while we're talking to a customer about it. We can call store to store and verify for a customer immediately that we're going to be able to get it from another store. The robot is helping us identify, it's keeping me out of trouble with weights and measures, finding all the tags that don't get changed or get kicked under. So giving us, the robot is giving us a task list instead of saying, go do aisle maintenance, which is a very generic term, and somebody could listen to the Myth podcast while they're hiding down their aisle. Now I've got the ability to say, no, these are the 20 things that the robot identified you needed to fix. You got to fix them, and we can track that, coach to it. So yeah, the technology is helping me find moments so that I can run with fewer people. I don't have to worry about the knowledge as much because we can answer those more technical questions. And so we're just becoming a more and more efficient machine.
You're not scared of that robot getting sentient and taking over the store?
It doesn't have any arms yet, so I'm not too worried. I think I could still take it. But yeah, there's definitely concerns about where some of this technology could go. And that's why I really like trying to keep my systems locked down and just to me. But yeah, not too afraid yet, but let's check back next year. I don't know what Jamie's cooking up in that shop across the bay.
Yeah, he's changed the name of his company to Skynet, so beware.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and for us, I think that, during COVID, we actually kind of saw it harder to get some of these, part-time employees, maybe your Tito that was a retired construction worker, and he was happy to come work at Busy Beaver because he wanted to help people with their projects and everything like that. But Tito doesn't want to put up price tags. Tito doesn't want to count inventory. So, Busy Beaver, and I know Eric's been the same way out at Hassett is, we're looking at technologies to enhance, our employees' experiences. I was never looking at self-checkout. I didn't want to get rid of people. I wanted to empower our associates to kind of do what they do best, and that's help customers. And again, at one point, knowledge was, one of the big gaps there. But now with FastQuery, that is now something that we don't have to worry about as much because basically they have all of this knowledge at their fingerprints. It's just been amazing now that throughout, all the hours that our stores open, we can have an engaged employee. So whether or not they are an expert or now they have FastQuery making them an expert, it's been quite the change.
Well, and Adam, that's actually I know this is a tech conversation, but my employee engagement senses are tingling right now because you guys are talking about every task that my managers, my employees just would be bogged down by. They were spending so much time on these everyday tasks that it kept them from wanting to show up or it was not their favorite thing to do. When you remove that, I'm sure you're seeing it improve your employee engagement. They get to focus on things they love to do within your stores. Is that a reality or am I just dreaming over here for a second?
I think that's a reality, and if you think of, a different hardware store, you have your different personalities there. So, there are some people that like to be very task oriented. So now they're seeing these tasks in FastQuery and they're able to action on them. And then you have your Titos that want to help the customers, and it kind of better allocates your workforce and making sure that they're all busy and they're all informed on what needs done each day as well. So, and I also think that there's a sense of pride that, oh, I'm working, with this company that's, doing pretty cool stuff. We're doing advanced things. And then I think with the level of reporting that we get from FastQuery and we're providing that back to our store management, they're also engaged in the fact of, oh, wow, they're seeing what we're doing. They're noticing, the positive changes we're making. And then I think with the product enhancements, especially for Eric and I, who've been on this thing now since the beginning, we've seen how much it's evolved, and we see how much, we've been able to influence that development. It's kind of pretty exciting that, maybe an idea that came up during a Q&A session that we had with FastQuery in the Busy Beaver team, a couple months later, we're seeing that feature being implemented. I think, I don't want to give credit to anyone on my team because I think this is a general idea that a lot of people thought about. But when we were talking about, not knowing what the shower rings are called, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
of like that movie Joe Dirt and all the different names for like fireworks. But now with FastQuery, you can just take a picture of that and it will tell you the number of different things it could be. And I think that was something one of our team members like, hey, could we possibly do this? And I think Joe's like, that's something we're working on. So it definitely helps with engagement for sure.
How do you make sure your employers are actually using it, trying it out, like making sure that they get like the value from adoption? Like are you guys how are you implementing that?
So
'Cause
you get
Adam,
a
I hear you've got like a deep tech stack, so like
yeah.
let me like maybe you could talk about it.
I mean, for us, it was really easy, Carrie. We were struggling with adoption a little bit because, yeah, it's hard to retrain people's brains. When we introduced task management and really leaned into that, that made our engagement go way up. And when they realized it was a valuable tool on multiple platforms, it became a thing. And so every night we get a report showing what our usage is by store. The managers can coach to that for the people who aren't engaging with it.
Cool.
But we also insert it into every day our stores do a huddle. We always talk about our culture, and then we always talk about things we can do better as a team to service the customer. So very often we're throwing out fast query challenges, right? Like, how do we stump this thing? What's the weirdest question you got?
That's fun.
And we make sure that they are seeing that me as the owner is still leveraging this tool. So that's how we've gotten our engagement to a higher level.
So you gamified it.
A little bit.
Let me see if we can stump it. I like that.
And I think just again, as in anything, you need to, just touch on it, regularly. In retail, there's a higher than average turnover. So you're going to have new managers. So, every week, this might be someone's first opportunity hearing about this. So we get, lovely reporting from FastQuery. You know, um, we report on those metrics, and then we have regularly scheduled meetings with FastQuery and our team, and we've done that with our general managers. We've had ones specifically geared towards our pro sales associates, so getting that level of engagement has been key to it.
Okay, now this is going to gamify for me because I feel like I want to stump it and I feel like I've got projects. I mean, I was in New Mexico about a month ago and we had to turn a regular flamethrower into something that was more impressive. So we literally had to just like grab some students from New Mexico Tech and went to the hardware store and we're like, okay, we need to figure out fittings that'll take this flamethrower and put it directly to a diesel tank because the PSI is just stupid and boring. And we need something that's going to come out that I'm going to have to like lean into it to make the fire happen. And like they had no idea, no idea. And I didn't have Tito. So like legit, I'm looking for AI on my phone. Do you see how I made
Right.
that about me? Let's go back to what
Yeah,
you guys are
love
talking
it.
about.
No, but I'm sitting here going, Carrie, you just represent every customer I ever dealt with. Where like Eric was talking about earlier, I was like, I finally have this. And then they'd come in and ask for the same product I just sold, but from a completely different angle or calling it. Like that feature is just, I'm going, you meet every customer in the aisle where they're at, whether they know where they're at or not. You now are bridging that gap just so much quicker. It's really cool to hear.
And another way, about gaming, finding that is, sharing success stories. I've said, like to use the term sometimes, celebration. So, like, highlighting an awesome sell that happened because of Fast Query. And, unfortunately, I think it was actually at one of your stores, Eric. A customer came in and did not speak, English. And you can actually, since FastQuery recognizes voice command, able to close the sale just because FastQuery is able to do that real-time interpretation.
Mhm.
And sharing stories like that, amongst others in FastQuery gets the mind moving. And I think one of the shifts that we have to do, and I was proud to be at a store yesterday where I heard the manager saying, "Well, did you ask FastQuery?" Because you want that to kind of be the first kind of thing that you do rather than waiting for Tito to get finished off with this phone call so he can answer this question, what's helped the customer now.
God, I hope Tito's like on the line right now because he's getting so many shout outs.
I
So
know.
I mean, so with any tech adoption, I know it sounds like there has to be some alignment from management. Has there been any surprises with like who is leading the adoption? Is it like older, younger, like part-time employees, seasoned veterans? Like who are the ones that are the first to be like, yes, I want to figure this out?
I think when you strip away the pride, back to Cody running and hiding in the bathroom, right? When you tell them, "Hey, this tool's got your back," our newer associates were very much the ones who adopted it faster and easier because they just didn't have the knowledge. And it did take some time and training. I have some very grizzled veterans in our outdoor power equipment store. They've been fixing saws forever, and why would I need FastQuery for that? Well, when you can show them that you can find the part number in 10 seconds instead of going to a website and digging through schematics to find a part number, and explain how that speeds up the repair for the customers, saves us time. Like the more senior can be, not always. My highest usage employee has been with me almost 30 years. But the ones who are more resistant, you just kind of have to grind them and show them that there are ways that even though they know maybe they're a paint head that's been doing it forever, um, show them how it can help them sell even better.
Dude, paint head? Is that a terminology in
Oh
the
yeah,
industry?
oh
Paint
yeah,
head? I
yeah.
love that. So you guys have a Q and A going for this, right? Are people do they know where to put their questions?
Yeah, so there's an open chat available to them. We've had a couple coming through, and I think we're definitely at this point where we could open that up if you guys are ready for that as well. I want to kick it off just a little bit because this adoption still, I mean, just seems a little too easy. Have you had any customer pushback when an employee pulls a phone out and starts talking to it or engaging with them in the technology instead of your customer? Or what's that reaction been like initially?
We have when our associates are involved, we've had zero pushback. When it was the original little buttons, I definitely got some side eyes and like, what the hell is going on here? But for our associates, I that's something that I query a lot. Like, what has the consumer experience been like? And we've got nothing but positives. Oftentimes, it's just for that what you were talking about earlier, Cody. They just want reinforcement on that they're getting the right product, and so having the associate. And it's shocking how many sales you can lose because the associate's going, let me read the label, right?
Yeah.
If they've gotten them to the right section and Fast Query is providing a good, better, best solution and the reason why, one of the first things I did with Fast Query is I ran it through a whole bunch of NHPA and other manufacturers' knowledge tests, right? And this thing not only aced those tests, but it also provided the context of why, right? Why is this Benmore product better in a wet environment than the other products? And that why is missing in most of the training that we do.
Yeah. Adam, has it been the same for you? Any pushback there?
Yeah, so no, there really hasn't been much pushback. And if you just think about, again, we're a home center, so we're a little bit bigger. And if you think about the layouts of our stores, so a lot of times, we'll be helping a customer in out, but in the past, we would have to go back to the sales desk or go up to the, customer service area. So now those questions are kind of being answered instantly and the associate isn't going to have to log on to a website or log on to the point of sale system. They have it right in their hand, so there really hasn't been much pushback because there's now that immediacy that is getting addressed and they're not having to wait a few minutes for someone to log on to a system or look something up. And one of the things that was asked earlier about like who adopts this the most. And, one of our stores is kind of in a younger demographic area. It was actually that same store in the neighborhood of CMU. I assumed that they were going to be by and far the number one store. They're the most youthful, but it actually ended up being one of our more suburban stores for a number of different reasons. Again, the footprint of the store, the terminals were kind of spread out, and the older demographic was more comfortable just talking to the app like they would talk to a Siri or an Alexa. So, we've seen, adoption rates from, our, older associates. So, I kind of learned not to have any preconceived notions on how technology is going to work.
I think that's great insights. Joe, I want to actually include you in this next part of the conversation because we have a great question that came in from George. Adam kind of brought it up, talking about POS systems. And the question that George had is there a preferred POS system or does it work with all of them? They specifically use Rock Solid Mac, so that's where they're starting from, but would love for you to answer that question.
Yeah, so great question. Most of our clients are in the Epicor ecosystem. We have not encountered any POS systems that we cannot integrate with. Even Epicor, which is not modern, not API forward, we've kind of found ways. So I would say absolutely capable and flexible to integrate with various other ERP systems, and generally, those vendors are very supportive in helping us with that integration.
Yeah. George had another follow-up question that I think kind of ties this as well. When you dive into the app and you start asking questions, it's tied to your information, but is the FastQuery answer set to be regionalized, or is it fully localized in its response?
So that's a great question. I think, AI is going to reshape the way that we sell to our customers. It's going to reshape the way that our customers shop. It's going to reshape the way that we operate as small business owners. That localization piece, I think, is particularly important from an analytics standpoint, especially when you're talking about strategic inventory decisions, pricing, strategy. From the product as it stands today, it does not necessarily understand the context of the geography that you're asking from, but you should ask your questions with as much context as possible. So, for example, like, hey, I'm living on the coast. I need, fasteners for my dock project. I'm, nailing like fiberboard planking to a metal dock. Like, what kind of fasteners do I need? So FastQuery is great at kind of picking up the nuances of that. Like, oh, you probably need something that is highly corrosion resistant, that won't react with your metal subframe. So, the way that you ask questions is important right now. In the future, absolutely, the localization aspect or the hyper localization aspects are coming.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just
you
a
guys,
little
I just have
note
to
on that.
interrupt real quick because I got to get out of here. I have a crazy project I have to go get on. So I just wanted to thank you, Cody, Eric, Joe, Adam. Like the two things I love most in the world are technology and my hardware store. So thank you for letting me be a part of this and ask all my questions. I love you guys, and good luck with the rest of your Q&A. I'm going to be out. Go watch the MythBits podcast if you guys get a chance.
Thank
That's what
you
I'm
so
going to do
much,
now.
Kari. Such a pleasure having you today.
Bye, guys.
Okay. I was just going to say, Cody.
Yeah,
Like,
please.
one of the things that really struck me when we first started working with FastQuery is I was able to provide local vendors information, and we ran in when we ran into sections that like the knowledge isn't necessarily out there. I reached out to the vendors. I reached directly out to Still and said, "Hey, I need all of your technical sheets to feed this machine and train it so that we can better service tools." So the ability to regionalize, the ability to specialize is maybe it's not there out of the box, but if you've got a very specific category you do well in or need to do really well in, build that bridge for them, introduce them to the right vendor, and they can onboard that data in a heartbeat.
Do you see when in that adoption conversation we're having, one of the questions was around like the verbal input and output and the texting. Do you see your employees using one way or the other more frequently?
We're far more verbal than text, but there's for some reason the youth, my 20 to 25-year-olds love to text.
Okay. Now, Joe, the last question I have here in our Q&A for today, and it really leads into this opportunity that you're presenting to those that joined us, is there's this idea with everything we've heard today that this AI has to be this huge company that I can look up and where do I go next? But that's just not the case, right? So I would love for you to give us a brief of FastQuery and then tell everybody about this pilot program you have available to them as well.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. And thanks, Eric and Adam, for having the conversation with us today. You guys have been absolutely instrumental in helping to guide and shape our product roadmap, as have all of our early customers. So FastQuery is a brand new company. We've been around for barely 14 months. Eric shared a bit about the origin story. I think just to kind of reiterate, like my view on the state of the AI space in general, the real promise of AI is the democratization of technology. And so you think about your big box competitors and these enterprise companies that have been investing in technology, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 20 years. The real promise for AI is to vastly narrow that knowledge and that technology gap and enable smaller independent companies access to the same kind of technological sophistication that has been out of reach, right? There are a few ways that I expect this to manifest in the independent hardware space. One, which we've talked about today is, how do we engage with our customers in store and in aisle, and how do we leverage technology to, drive greater efficiency and operations visibility, and customer success. The next space, which I expect will be central to the next webinar that we host, is in analytics, right? How do we be very smart about pricing decisions and about strategic purchasing and replenishment decisions? How do we properly view and manage our inventory? Really, really, really exciting things coming from FastQuery in those domains. The other area I think is e-commerce. Like it's absolutely going to reshape the way that customers shop and retailers sell. So we have a really, really big roadmap in front of us. We are a very small company as of yet, but we have really big ambitions, and I think we're really committed to driving innovation and this democratization of technology, really sophisticated capabilities at a very, very reasonable price point down to the independents. You can find us online at www.fastquery.ai. You can reach me via email, joseph.bullock@fastquery.ai. hello@fastquery.ai also works. You can reach us from our website. And as an expression of gratitude and demonstration that we're a small, hungry, growing company, everyone that participates today, we're willing to do a free 30-day in-store pilot that includes no setup fees. We take on the integration and the heavy lifting to get you guys up and running on ourselves. And we're just really eager to get our technology into more hands, into more users, and continue to kind of cultivate this community of engaged customers like Hassett and like Busy Beaver to, really help shape, the future of AI adoption at the independent level.
Well, and your commitment shows with this great pilot program. So thank you for bringing that to this webinar series. And you did tease that a little bit as well. We're so excited that today's not the end of the conversation. This is the beginning of a tech-focused webinar series that NHPA is partnering with FastQuery AI on. The next one will take place later this spring in the April-May area, and we're looking forward to continuing this conversation as Joe mentioned as well. And the cool thing about this webinar series is we actually get to finish it out in person at the Independent Home Improvement Conference. So FastQuery AI will be hosting a breakout session where you get to be in person talking through this technology adoption. And like we mentioned before, today was just the beginning of that. And so we're so grateful each and every one of you have joined us today, hung out with us to learn more about what this looks like. We would love for you to join us at the IHI conference that's happening in Orlando, July 29th and 30th, and get another chance to connect with these technology folks and understand how can you make this possible to bring it in your aisles as well. I want to say a great big thank you to Eric, Adam, Joe. Thank you guys for joining us today, getting all of this great information in front of the industry. And a big shout out once again to Kari Byron for joining us and just really diving in there and sharing that customer experience. We appreciate everything you brought to today's conversation. We'll see you guys next time, and there's always more to come. Have a great day, guys.